Hello friends, we will be discussing universe as a system in the course of foundation course in science and technology. As we all know, universe is a very vast thing, and the study of universe is also very vast, and it needs a lot of inputs and research to be completely understood. And we won't be going into that depth in the universe as a system, but we'll be limiting ourselves to the topics we are to cover in the foundation course in science and technology, and we'll be doing just the superficial part of the universe as a system. And I'll be trying to just telling you all the developments in the universe as a system that came by time to time as a matter of story, and it is a matter of history, and I'll be putting my full efforts just to put forward to you in as simple a manner as it can be. Friends, you will be agreeing with me when I say that whenever there occurs an event in our life, or whenever there is a story in our life, we couldn't understand it properly on the basis of the scientific evidence, then we say this is the by the grace of the God that it is happening. And this is exactly what happened in the ancient times, that different societies, different civilizations explored the universe in their own way by linking all the things with the God, because they didn't have any scientific evidence for that, and the science was so rudimentary at that time that they didn't even know about the earth was flat or round, or anything about the universe, and so on. And in the field of universe, we can say the Egyptians, Sumerians, and Greeks, they made marvelous contributions in exploring the universe as a system, and they, by their research and by their curiosity, they made advances in that, and they proposed different models of the universe as a system. And by giving universe as a system an idea, they also studied planets, the movements of the earth, sun, and all. So first of all, we will be discussing the Egyptian view of the universe. So what regarding the Egyptian view of the universe, what did this they researched was the star. They said that the Egyptian view was that the star-studded figure at the top. See this is the figure of the universe according to Egyptians, and the star-studded this is the star-studded figure at the top. This is a female body, and they assume that this is the sky, and this is the goddess of sky, and they named it as Nut. The star-studded figure at the top is the sky, that is of the goddess Nut. They called the goddess as Nut, and she is protecting all the human beings living beneath them, beneath herself, and they are being protected and given a fair shadow of her body. And beneath the Nut is Shu, the god of air. He is shown holding symbols of immortality in hands. This is here is the god Shu, and Shu was the name of the air god, and he is holding the symbols of immortality in his hands. These are the symbols of immortality according to Greek mythology. Under him lies the earth god Geb. This is the earth god Geb, and his body is covered with leaves. This is just signifies that this is earth, and earth has vegetations on its body, so its body is covered by leaves. The boats on each side of the drawing carried the sun on its daily journey across the sky. This is one boat, and this is another one on this side, and each boat carries sun from one end of the sky to the other during the traveling of the sun during the day. The observation of sun and stars to fix the length of a year became so precise that already in 2700 before Christ era, the Egyptians were able to fix it at 365.2422 days. You can you can see that the Egyptians made fair advances in uh, in guessing what the universe was, and they were so keen to observe the universe as a system, and they observed the sun and stars, and they even fixed the length of a year to such a precise figure that in that too in 2700 before Christ era, and they were able to fix the length of the day as 365.2422 days. This is fairly good, fairly precise, as we have the knowledge of the year length today. So the Egyptians made the initial advances, and they were very keen to explore the universe in their own ways. Then we come on to the Sumerian model of the universe. The Sumerians were also very keen to observe the universe, and they proposed different theories from their time to time, and proposed that what the universe was like to be composed of. And we can see in this figure, this is the Sumerian model of universe, and a pictorial graphical representation of the universe is that uh, you can see the whole universe and earth system. This is earth system, and this is surrounded by primordial sea water. It says that there is water all around the earth, and a sky is above side the air is above the earth, and this is the earth band, and above it lies air, that is free air, and above it lies sky. Then below earth there is fresh water, aquifers plus springs and lakes, rivers, marshes, and in their own language they said it Abzu, that was home of Enki. So everything was symbolized by their the names of the gods, by whom they just signify that the water was home of Enki. And below the water band there is netherworld, the world that belongs to nobody, and they called it as Kur. And this way they had this significant idea about this earth and all the universe that is surrounded by primordial sea water. And let us now come to learn about all the points one by one. The Sumerian visualized the universe as a flat earth covered by the heaven that was made up of tin. So they proposed that the earth was flat. Actually, it occurred to nobody's mind at that time that earth could not be flat a thing, because we are moving on that, and we can go fairly far away on a flat earth. It never occurred to their minds that earth could be round also, and it is covered by the heaven that was made up of tin. So heaven was made up of tin, and that was well above the earth, and that was heavens. We can say in the skies there lies the heaven. Between them lay the glowing sun, moon, planets, and stars, which were controlled by the gods. And they said this was controlled by the gods of the system, and there was nothing like gravity, and nothing like how the moon, sun, and planets and stars, they were making their movements. The earth was the principal thing in the universe. So this was all earth centric universe system. They knew no reason to think otherwise. They accepted the sun, moon, planets, and stars for what they looked like. So although they knew the sun and moon and planets and stars, they were different entities, and they appeared at their own stipulated time during the day and night as well. Sumerians and their successors in Mesopotamia adjusted the solar, that was sun based, and lunar, the moon based calendars through accurate observations. So they were so advanced at that time, you can say that, because the Sumerians and Mesopotamians, they developed their own sun based and moon based calendars at that time. They invented the sexagesimal system of 360 degrees in a circle that is near enough to the days in a year, 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute. So very fair idea they had about the degrees of a circle. We still today we also know that there are 360 degrees in a circle. Angle of 360 degrees make one full circle. and that was very close enough to the days in a year, that is 365, and 60 minutes was there in an hour, and 60 seconds in a minute. So these are all units of the you can say this angle of a circle. So angles are measured in degrees, minutes and minutes and seconds, sorry. So later on only these ones became the units of the degrees of a circle or measurement of a circle or angle. The exercises were carried out using mathematical tables and led to algebra and arithmetic to the later epochs. So they were so advanced at that time that they developed mathematical calculations, tables, algebra and arithmetic. So this was a very great achievement on the Sumerian model of universe, that it was not only well developed, but okay, it was okay that they linked it towards their gods as well, but they were very well aware of the measurement of the angles, and they were developing arithmetic, algebra, mathematical tables at different entities, different branches of science and mathematics. Then we come on to the contribution by Greeks in around 600 before Christ era. It happened to them that to think that the earth was not flat. Had the earth been flat, a ship would always be seen complete, though fainter as it moved away. Say one person is standing on the seashore and he is watching a ship that is going far away into deep waters, and if the earth is flat, he should be able to see the complete ship, though fainter as it moved away, but not actual observation. But the actual observations show that the departing ship to be sinking as it disappears below the observer's horizon. So whenever this person is standing at the seashore, and whenever the ship is moving farther and farther, it seemed to be like sinking, and it was just moving down on the from the horizon of this person. So then it happened to them an idea that the earth is rounded in shape and the earth is not flat. So then according to this, then they further researched and then proposed the further models of earth and universe as well. So it happened to them only, Greeks only, that the earth is not flat. So it was one philosopher, Thales, who thought that the earth to be round, not flat, and he proposed his theories in the philosophical sayings, and just conveyed to the masses that the earth was not flat. Another one was Pythagoras. We have studied Pythagoras Theorem in our school days, that the hypotenuse can be found out by knowing the base as well as the height of a triangle. So it was the same Pythagoras and his disciples who also maintained that the earth was spherical and not flat. They reasoned that it must be round because the way the ship seemed to be sinking below the horizon of the sea, as we just saw in this example, and because of the circular shadow it casts on the moon during an eclipse. You can see very well, this is the moon, this is the full moon, and this is the brighter side of the moon, and this is the darker side of the moon, and this shadow was caused by the earth whenever an eclipse happens, and this shadow of the earth blocks the moon from being visible in its complete entity, and only this part of the moon is becoming brighter. And because this edge of the earth that is casting its shadow on moon is rounded, that is why Pythagoras and his disciples argued that the earth is rounded in shape and it is spherical, not flat. So the Greek astronomers made so advances in observing the universe was that the Greek astronomers had also mapped the stars at that time and constellations, and had estimated the brightness of the stars. They could identify the different stars with their brightness and the position in the sky. They also identified some constellations that appeared during the different timings of the year as well, and they identified the stars with their brightness. and in the direction of the sky they were situated in. They had observed the apparent motion of the planets, which seemed to wander amidst the stars, with some, like Mars, even traveling backwards. So they could also identify the planets which were moving amongst the stars, like Mars. They identified the Mars, which were even which even traveled backwards as relative to the stars. The problem before them was to figure out the real motion of the planets as seen from up in the sky away from the earth. So the real problem was they didn't have any reach to those planets, and they didn't have any observatories or telescopes at that time, so that they could figure out the real motion. What was the direction of the motion? Was it two-dimensional motion, or was it a three-dimensionally movement of the planets? So they didn't have any idea about this. Friends, this is a word of wisdom, and it says that there lies a calendar in the sky if anyone is keen to observe that. Certain stars rise just before sunrise and set just after the sunset. So if you see clearly in a clear sky that there are some stars, and particular ones, that just rise just after sunrise and they set just after the sunset, and at times the positions vary with the seasons, and different timings during the night also they change their positions. And if one made careful observations of the stars and recorded them over many years, one could predict the seasons as well. Which star is in which position in what particular season, which constellation is there in what part of the sky in some particular season, and so this way we can predict seasons as well, just by looking at the position of the stars or constellations or planets in the sky. Measure the time of the year by noting where on the horizon the sun rose each day. So we can pinpoint the position of the sunrise according to the horizon, at the horizon, according to the day, according to the time of the year, just by noting the direction, just by noting the pinpoint direction of the horizon, on the horizon at which the sun rose each day. Thus there lay in the skies a great calendar available to everyone who cared to read it. Yes, you can just apply this knowledge and start today only. So then Greeks proposed a geocentric model of the universe. We will be discussing the Exodus model. So geocentric model means that Earth was at the center of the universe and all the planets revolve around this Earth. So this is called geocentric model. So most of the models constructed by the Greeks to explain the movement of planets consisted of perfect concentric spheres or circles. They held that each planet was attached to this invisible sphere or a circle that rotated around the Earth at a different speed from the rest of the spheres. You can see they propose that this is in the center there was Earth, and every planet they propose that this sphere, another sphere is this, another sphere is this, another is this. These are all concentric, having a common center. These spheres have a common center. This is called spheres having concentric concentric points, and all the planets are linked somehow to this sphere, each planet having a different sphere and rotating around the Earth in its own speed and orbit. This is the concept of orbit. Basically they just said that these are the sphere linked movements of all the planets, and they also just identified this is north direction and this is south direction. This is the tilted axis of Earth, which we know today it is actually tilted one. And so they just proposed that this was the geocentric model of the universe, where Earth lied at the center of this universe. One of the Greek model of Earth was proposed by Ptolemy. It was a very famous model which attracted many discussions over that. And Ptolemy model proposed was by some scientist named as Ptolemy only, and he proposed that Earth is shown in the center with the four elements: earth, air, fire and water. This is earth in the center with all the four elements, that is earth, air, fire and water. Above these elements are heavenly bodies, the moon, the Mercury, the Venus, the sun, the Mars, Jupiter and Saturn. Now you can see they are naming all the moon amongst the Mercury, Venus and sun, also the Mars, Jupiter and Saturn as being this identical entities. They didn't have any differentiation between a satellite, that is moon we know today, and the planets and sun. They didn't have any differentiation between all these. They just took the moon and sun on the same platform and thought that the sun as well as the sun, moon, Mercury and other planets, they are moving all around the earth. They were all the same entities, alike entities. Then comes the sphere of fixed stars. This is the sphere of fixed stars. All the stars lie above the earth, around the earth in this fixed star pattern, and they are above this all the planets. And beyond that, a ninth and 10th spheres, they driven from divinity. Again a godly touch comes here, that the ninth and 10th spheres, they are driven by divinity from all from which all other spheres derive their motion. So all these spheres are moving, and divinity, the spheres derive, they provide energy to all these, and that is why they all make movements, they revolve around the earth. So it was much like Ptolemy's model that Aristotle, another Greek scientist, in around 384 to 322 before Christ era, he gave the view of the universe as a static universe with the earth at its center, with circular orbits for moon, sun, planets and stars. So again this was a geocentric model, and he proposed like this: the universe had no beginning, no knowledge about how it was formed. So but he couldn't get an idea and propose that how the universe was formed, and how was it in the beginning, and how it moved ahead and developed ahead. Earth and the heavens were fundamentally different, with earth having gone changes while heavens being perfect and changeless. So he identified two entities, one was earth and one was heavens. Earth was undergoing several changes, while heavens were perfect from the right day one, and that was changeless. The heavens had not undergone any changes. So this was the Aristotle's model, and this is called static universe, and with geocentric model of the universe, that was what he proposed. And this is much like the Ptolemy's model, which Ptolemy had proposed already. Then after that, the Ptolemy's model of the universe, which had earth at its center, that is geocentric model, that was raised objections against by Aristarchus of Samos, who said that the earth was one of the several planets which, like them, orbits the sun, which was at the center of the universe. So it was the first time that it was proposed that it was the sun that was the center of the universe and not earth. The earth as well as the other planets, they all revolve around the sun in definite orbits. So this was the first time that Aristarchus of Samos that raised objections against Ptolemy's model. He also argued that the sun was much bigger than the earth and stars were enormously far away. So sun was very bigger than the earth's size. You can see in this model, sun was very big in the as related to the earth, and the stars were very far away than the other planets as well. However, we don't know how he reached onto these conclusions, but each of this is correct. That is, the sun is the center, and earth and all the planets revolve around it. This is very true, and at that time it was the first proposed by this scientist, and raised some objections against the geocentric model of the universe. So just to recall what was the Greek model of Earth, this was a static universe, and the theoretical model of the universe given by the Greeks had a stationary Earth at its center. That is why it was said that the universe was static, around which the sun, the moon and the planets moved in a circular orbits, that is geocentric model. In this model of the universe, stars merely acted as a backdrop, much like a painted screen hung by a photographer at a village fair. The earth seems steady, solid, unmoving, while we can see the heavenly bodies rising and setting each day. So earth was static, and the stars were just like a backdrop in the backdrop, and they were also static, just like a picture hanging in the back, and in the front their planets are moving around the earth, just as heavenly bodies rising and setting, just like sun and moon. Then Aryabhata's contribution cannot be ignored, but Aryabhata at that time was a leading Indian astronomer in 15th century Anno Domini, believed in the rotation of Earth about its own axis. He had also given a rational explanation of the occurrences of eclipses. However, his ideas did not survive for long in the prevalent social conditions in India. So, in prevalent social conditions in India at that time in the 5th century AD were not very good, and his views were not conveyed to the whole of the world, and so his ideas of Earth as this phenomenon like this, and it was moving around its own axis, it was just discarded, and it was not conveyed very well to the world. So friends, the Ptolemaic model of geocentric universe held sway for over 1000 years. All the scientists and the observations made at that time, they just relied upon the Ptolemaic model, and everyone agreed to that geocentric universe model of the universe. With the Renaissance in Europe, scientists took to the path of observation and experiment. The 15th century European and astronomers built observatories, improved Ptolemy's instruments, and devised novel ones. As was bound to happen, their observations began to clash with Ptolemaic model theory. As the observations about the paths of the planets became more accurate, Ptolemy's model was increasingly strained to fit the facts. The Renaissance had opened the vast storehouse of ancient Greek knowledge to the European astronomers. So now it was the turn of European astronomers who, by their improved observatories and telescopes and all the instruments, they made them more refined in a way and observed it very keenly, and the Ptolemy's model was almost being rejected day by day, and because all the facts were not into that tally marks with the observations that were made day to day in the European astronomers in the European observatories. A Polish astronomer who was Nicholas Copernicus re-examined the long neglected sun-centered theories of the universe. So this sun-centered model of the theories of the universe, that is long neglected, that remained neglected, and Ptolemaic model was all the story going on day by day. In 1543, Nicholas Copernicus published a quite different hypothesis from the prevailing Ptolemaic model to explain the apparent motion of planets. It was the most daring feature. Its most daring feature was the proposition that sun, not the earth, was at the center of the universe. So this was became to be a game changer, that he proposed that the sun and not the earth was at the center of the universe. So it was the just beginning of the proposal of a heliocentric model of the universe. So this was the turn of the Copernicus heliocentric model of the universe that he proposed, and the Copernican model consisted of the sun at the center, where with the 6 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, with the moon around it, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn going around the sun in circular orbits. In this model too, the stars formed a fixed sphere in the background. So you can say Copernicus also didn't observe any of the star in a particular identity, and he just identified 6 planets. But it was a merit on his part that in his model the Earth and the Moon, they were made the moon was not made another planet, and the moon revolved around the earth. It was made very clear in this model. There was the heliocentric model as proposed by Copernicus. Then Copernicus also believed that all planets were of the same size. His model, as well as Ptolemy's spheres, worked well to explain the apparent motion of the planets, but it led to a contradiction with the adherents of the geocentric model. It was not generally accepted until much later, when Galileo and Kepler's works proved that the heliocentric model was valid. So it took a lot of efforts by the Copernicus model to be accepted by the people at large, and the Ptolemy's sphere model, where the Earth was in the center of the universe, that was very well accepted at that time, and the Copernicus model made hard efforts to make it believed. It was only when the Galileo and Kepler's works that proved experimentally that the heliocentric model was valid enough.